It is time for another Mailbag edition of Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. Coming up on today's show, we will answer your questions. This comes from our live show that we do on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. And if you've never been a part of our live shows before, you need to be. So here's what I need you to do. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And whether we go live for our normal shows on Wednesdays or if the Seahawks make a big signing or trade, we'll go live as well. And so when you turn on notifications and subscribe to the channel, you'll be the first to know when we're doing these live shows and doing these mailbags and be a part of it. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead and subscribe for free. Be a part of this movement that we call Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. Doesn't cost you a thing. YouTube.com/Seahawks TV to subscribe today, and we'll get started with today's show. Bang! A $45 super chat from Pablo. Do you think the Seahawks draft Kancey at 5 or 20? Pablo, thank you, my guy, for the $45 super chat. With that, Kancey, you don't draft at 5. I think that would be a reach. He doesn't seem like he has the measurables quite to be the number 5 selection based on the way the boards are going. 20, that is certainly possible. That makes sense for the Seahawks potentially to draft him with that number 20 selection. So that, to me, makes sense potentially there at 20. I could see Seattle pulling that off. But as far as the number 5 pick goes, that would be a bit of a reach there. But he's a very talented player, and I think the Seahawks would love to have him as far as I'm concerned. Pablo, thanks for that $45 super chat there. Ducky! I assume Ducky's an Oregon Ducks fan, right? Ducky, thanks for the $20 super chat. And Ducky writes in, after seeing Pete and everybody at C.J. Stroud's Pro Day, would trading up be worth it for us? So here's the deal. I think that when you look at this draft, now that Carolina has moved up to the number 1 spot and the Texans hold the number 2 pick, you are going to see Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud taken at number 1 overall. And then the other one is going to be taken at number 2 overall. So if you're going to get either C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, you're going to have to pick out 1 or 2. I highly doubt that either one of them is going to fall to the number 5 position, okay? I'd be open to picking either one of them at 5, quite frankly. But the asking price is going to be a lot to move up to 1 or 2. I'll put it this way. Pete Carroll and John Schneider would have to fall in love with C.J. Stroud. If you're convinced, if you're sold on C.J. Stroud, okay, I understand. But if you're not, if you have any skepticism whatsoever, no, I can't do that. Thanks, Ducky. Seattle writes, Seattle Dan, is Jalen Carter off the Seahawks draft board with the recent news? So let's catch up to speed on that, by the way, with Jalen Carter. You had the situation, of course, down in Georgia with the arrest and all that ordeal. That was unfortunate. And that's still being looked at, of course. And then he had a really bad pro day where he couldn't finish drills, gained like 9 pounds of weight and all that, and questions about if his head, if his mental space was in the right place. With that said, no. Unless told otherwise, Jalen Carter, I think that the tape speaks for itself, the talent level, what he's able to do. He's going through a rough time right now. No question about it. This is a challenging point in his time. But, with that said, I think this is a period where you talk to him, you see where his headspace is at, and, you hope that he can overcome those things. I think that you still take him at 5 if he's still around and still available for you. Unless there's some new developments on this arrest at the moment, I don't think that you take him out of the equation. I still like Jalen Carter potentially at that number 5 spot if he's there. Should the Seahawks draft Jalen Carter? Are you out on Jalen Carter? Let me know. Y for yes, in for no. What do you think about the possibility of drafting Jalen Carter? Y for yes, in for no. Bang! A $50 super chat. Bubble Boy 2017, we'll pay this off here in just a second. If you're watching on the live show, stay tuned. We'll pay this off in just a bit, so don't worry about that. But as far as our mailbag segment goes, let's answer this question from Bubble Boy 2017. Bubble Boy, I don't know if I've seen you here on the show. Welcome, Bubble Boy. What a way to make an entrance here. Hashtag Seahawks. If you were Pete and company, who would you take at 5 and 20? Well, I'm glad you asked. So we have a mock draft that is on the channel this week. Mock draft 3.0 for your Seattle Seahawks. And Jalen Carter, I still think sounds great for Seattle at 5 if he's around. And then at 20, I know that some people will say that this wasn't the highest priority for Seattle with the needs that they had on this team. But now that you've gotten Draymond Jones in free agency, if you take care of the defensive tackle spot with Jalen Carter with that number 5 pick, all of a sudden you don't have to use the 20 pick on an edge rusher. You got some flexibility. I know that everybody's talked about defense and spending picks on defense and everything like that. I get that. What about a receiver at 20? What if Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers, one of these guys are still there, and you know that Tyler Lockett is getting older and already had some serious injuries for the first time in his career this past season. You got DK there. You have a hole at the number 3 spot. Can I interest you in drafting a receiver at 20 potentially? Does that sound intriguing? Because it sure does to me. That's what I'd be looking at if I'm Seattle. But Bubble Boy, thanks for the super chat. We'll pay that off here in a bit. Raw Hector, hashtag Seahawks. Do we have the best safety room in the NFL? Not quite, actually. I think that answer belongs to the Baltimore Ravens, who have Marcus Williams and Kyle Hamilton and Geno Stone. They got a really good group there in Baltimore. I think that's probably the best safety room in the NFL. But even with that said, you look at what the Seahawks have. Jamal Adams, if he can stay healthy, is still a really good safety. I think, obviously, Quandre Diggs is fantastic. He got off to a strong finish to last year. Julian Love, whether you play him at nickelback or whether he starts, is going to be fantastic, too. Watch out for what he can bring to the table. He's going to be a really good player. And then, of course, Ryan Neal as well, who's rated as the best safety by Pro Football Focus this past year. You got a lot of options, a lot of good players there. I don't think it's the very best, but it's S tier, put it that way. One of the top safety rooms in the NFL. Thanks for that $20 for that question there, Hector. We are offering Seahawk hoodies on sale now. Chatsports.com/Seahawks hoodie, up to 50% off. Whether you want to get the dark-colored ones, the blues, or the grays, the whites, whatever you're feeling, whatever your vibe is, we got you covered. And these are on sale now while supplies last. It's a great deal. Up to 50% off. What are you waiting for? Get yours today, and you'll be glad you did. It's still, can be a little chilly sometimes. I personally, I'm the type of guy that I like to wear a hoodie with some basketball shorts. I think that's always a solid move, especially this time of year. What are you waiting for? Get yours now, chatsports.com/Seahawks hoodie. There's probably some basketball shorts in there, too, if you want as well. Get yours now, chatsports.com/Seahawks hoodie, up to 50% off. Ducky with a $20 super chat. If you're watching on the live show, we'll pay this off here in just a second, Ducky. Where does Darnell Washington fall, and can we pick him up and still be able to fill the holes? Same with Ringo. Darnell Washington, tight end from the University of Georgia. He was, remember, the backup tight end this past year because you got Brock Bowser there, who was the best tight end in all of college football the last couple seasons. Darnell Washington, I think, is going to be a late first-round pick. I know that Kincaid, the tight end from Utah, is getting some love as well. And then Michael Mayer from Notre Dame. This is a really good tight end class in this draft. Darnell Washington, I understand he's a big fella and a very good blocking tight end. But I have questions as far as him as a receiver goes. So I would personally not draft Darnell Washington as far as I'm concerned. Kelee Ringo, I've seen him. It's been weird looking at his draft boards. You've seen him as high as top 20, and then others early on in the draft process had him mocked fall into the 3rd round. So he's one that if he's sitting there in the 2nd round with one of the 2 picks the Seahawks have there, I'd take a chance on Kelee Ringo if he somehow slips there in the 2nd round. I wouldn't use a first-round pick on him. Ducky, thanks for the super chat there. Appreciate it, man. Seahawks for life. What's the expectation for Geno Smith in his second year as a starter? I think if you're Seattle, you would take what you had last year again, and you'd feel great about that. If he takes a step back, then you're a little concerned, right? If he takes a step forward, then you're feeling great. You're cooking with bacon grease at that point. I think if you're Seattle, because we all sit here, we know that Geno's not going to be around forever. If he can kind of steady the ship until Seattle finds their long-term solution at quarterback, if he can just play where he's at, you will gladly take that. I'll take 30 touchdowns and 11 picks again. And with the way you've already bettered this roster, besides what you're going to do in the draft, if he has another 30 touchdown, 11 pick season again, watch out for how many football games you can win this upcoming season. I think the expectation should be do what you did last year again, and the Seahawks would be in good shape. Buy or sell. Geno Smith will have an even better year in 2023 than he did in 2022. Do you buy that? Do you sell that? If you're buying that, type B for buy. If you're selling that, type S for sell. Let me know. Buy or sell, Geno will have an even better year in 2023. Let me know. JVB Games writes, have you seen Nolan Smith in the combine? He's pretty interesting, and he ran a 4.39 40-yard dash, and he is a linebacker. What do you think about him? Nolan Smith actually, edge rusher, but incredible athlete. He was the star of the combine along with Anthony Richardson. The vertical jump he did was just insane. The 40-yard dash, all of that was incredible from Nolan Smith. And he is skyrocketing up draft boards. Here's a possibility potentially. Let me throw this idea out for you guys. What about you get Jalen Carter at 5 and Nolan Smith at 20, and you get those college teammates together? Do I have you intrigued? Does that sound interesting? I think it does. Yeah, I'm very open to the possibility of Nolan Smith. $5 super chat from Roman. Roman, thanks for that. We'll pay that off here in a second as well. What do you think about Tyree Wilson at 5, Osiris Torrance at 20, Trenton Simpson at 37, and Henley at 52? I think that sounds like a win. I think, Roman, that you're on to something there. I think that could be a very good situation for the Seahawks if they were able to pick up those guys there. Osiris Torrance, he's the one that I think was looked at as a pick for Seattle at 20, and he's kind of fallen off boards a bit. But I go back to the tape, what he did at Florida, making an easy transition from Louisiana Lafayette to being an all-SEC performer. I still think he's very good there. Yeah, that very well could be a good situation for Seattle with those first 4 picks there. Roman, you might be onto something. Thanks for that super chat. Who is your favorite Seahawks free agent signing to this point? It's been a very active offseason for your Seattle Seahawks. Tell me in the comments section who comes to mind of your favorite free agent signing for the Seahawks here this offseason.